And welcome everybody to the Women of Wrestling podcast here on Ring Bells. It's the Christmas show 2012, aka episode 49 if you're keeping score at home. It's Santa Stew here with the frankly elf-like Lee Burton.
Merry Christmas and all that bollocks.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
But yeah, it's Christmas. It's episode 49. As we record this, we still have absolutely no idea what we're going to do for episode 50, but I'm sure it will be epic. Stay tuned.
It could be a 5-on-5 elimination tag team match.
Yeah, it could be.
Hang on, people are getting excited here. We've got a round table. We've got a round table of the three wise men of North American independent women's wrestling. I guess that's what we're saying here, just to keep it vaguely Christmassy related. Representing the American Midwest and Shimmer, Mr. Dave Prezak. Dave, hello.
Hello.
Are you feeling the Christmas spirit?
Certainly. No, yes, I am. And yes, Lee needs to be an elf because he is little.
Oh, get off.
It's true. We also have, representing the American Northeast, I guess, and Women's Superstars Uncensored, Mr. Drew Cordero. Drew, hello.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Well, let's see. Aspie in an R. But have you been a good boy this year?
Oh, don't ask that question.
What kind of a question is that?
Now, that would be an appropriate question if you had three women on the show, right? It would also get more downloads than three dudes, but anyway.
We'll see. And finally, representing the land of ice and snow up in Quebec, Mr. Stéphane Bruyère of NCW Femme Fatale. Stéphane, ça va?
Ça va très bien. Oui, ça va bien. Do I need to speak in English or French for that? Or?
Let's keep it English, I guess, for now.
Yeah, and I fully see myself, Lee, as an elf also.
Oh, great. I'm glad to have my position established. Brilliant.
I don't know Lee well enough to insult him, so.
Go ahead, just do it. Everybody else does.
Yeah.
It's true, they do.
You're an elf.
Continue, gents.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit here in a corner and sulk.
Okay, well look, we've got a round table here. This is uncharted territory as far as the podcast is concerned. We've had multiple guest shows before, but never one where everyone's on together, so we're going to try not to talk over each other as much as possible, I hope. And let's try and get the ball rolling here. If it hasn't escaped your notice, we're rapidly approaching the end of 2012 and possibly also the end of the world, but 2012 has been a pretty challenging year for a lot of independent wrestling companies, certainly as far as women's independent wrestling was concerned as well. How was it for you guys? Drew, I'll direct that one to you first because you're the new guy as far as this is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, as far as everything goes, we've certainly had our struggles trying to get back on our feet, but what I have to say is that I'm really surprised with how committed and how dedicated everybody on the WSU roster is, how willing they are to pitch in a hand and help out and make sure that we can realize, I think, what WSU is capable of. And, I also run Beyond Wrestling, and I don't necessarily always get that from the guys. And I'm not sure if it's the type of situation where the girls feel like they need to look out for themselves more because there's not as many people that are going to look out for them otherwise. But I'm really surprised about the camaraderie. And, as many things as that we would like to do that we haven't had the capability of doing so for whatever limitations or roadblocks that we've encountered. I definitely see the potential, and it's more so that hope, knowing that everybody is all hands on deck going forward.
Did you, when you took over the promotion at the start of, whenever you took over, I guess in the middle of the year, I suppose it was, did you think you'd be doing more than one show? You've only had one in the can so far.
Yeah, and I mean, we've actually got a Beyond Wrestling and WSU split show coming up, which hasn't been heavily publicized. We're going to be taping that next weekend. One of the luxuries that we have when we do these studio tapings is we don't really have to do much to promote anything ahead of time, and then sort of once everything is done, we can really start the promotional process at that point. So it's not like, you know what I mean? I guess in the eyes of the fans, it sort of looks like since we've come back, since the announcement was made in June, we've only had one show. Yeah, and yes, I would have liked to have run another public show in December, but we did a show in October, we've got a show in December, and we'll have another event in February. So I want to make sure that we have everything, everything lined up where it needs to be, where we're going to be taking calculated risks, and if that means having to slow down the schedule for a little bit in order to make sure that we have the resources that we need to run more regularly going forward, I definitely prefer to do that rather than jump headfirst into something that we might not be prepared for. You said the reason I started first. I'm the newest one to the women's wrestling game, so I've still got some stuff to learn as well. And overall, I'm surprised with how positive of an experience as it is. Just because obviously wrestling, we take it day to day.
Indeed, Dave. 2012 for you?
I think it went pretty well. I was very happy with. I think that I'm the happiest at this stage of the game in terms of Shimmer with the roster than I've ever been. And that sounds kind of weird because Sarah Del Rey isn't on the roster anymore, and we kind of built the promotion around her for the first several years.
What happened to that woman?
I don't know. I think she got another job somewhere, maybe working at Starbucks or something. But no, Sarah was a huge part of Shimmer, and honestly, I feel weird even saying that I'm happiest with the roster without her there. But what it comes down to is, for a while there, I wasn't very pleased with the overall shows because, and it seems like a lot of fans would agree, that the upper half of the show would deliver some awesome matches, and the undercard always needed some work, and some of the girls were really rough around the edges on the undercard, and I'm just very happy with how we've improved the overall show quality. At least I'd like to think that we have over the past year and a half, maybe, in terms of from the opening match all the way up to the top of the card. And I'm very happy with where the roster stands right now. And when Sarah left, and there were some other notable absences, especially from the second half of the year as far as the shows go, from Ayumi Kurihara not being there to Haley going back to Japan to Jessie McKay wasn't able to come in. So the question was, could we fill the rest of those spots, like those open spots, by having some of the other roster members step up their game? And they certainly did. Anyone who was in the building for our October tapings realized that as soon as there's an opportunity, some of these younger girls are going to seize the opportunity and turn themselves into stars. So I was very happy with product-wise where Shimmer went in 2012, and I look forward to the future.
2 happy men so far. Stefan, can you make it 3?
Well, yeah, I think so. It's been a good year for us. Also, we started strong with our March show. That is probably our best show so far. In our 10th show we did. July was really good also, and we then in November we tried with our Femme Fatale 10. We tried to do the double taping, which wrestling wise was a huge success, but crowd wise was less good crowd we had so far. Maybe because the Quebec crowd is not ready for double taping, or maybe there could be a lot of explanation to give that. But I'm really happy with the wrestling we gave to our fans, and I know that those will be good DVDs to buy when they'll be ready. I know we are already. Lufisto is already working really hard on the DVDs because she's doing all her multimedia stuff, and I'm really happy with what we had. I'm really happy with the with the evolution of our wrestler. Also, I'm happy for a girl like Angie Sky, for a girl like Kira, for a girl like Sweet Cherry that had the opportunity to wrestle at Sparkle. I am really happy for them so they can start to have big matches in Montreal, also in front of their crowd, in front of their friends. And that's one of the things we wanted to do with Femme Fatale, is we wanted them to have a bigger recognition when we talk about wrestling worldwide, women's wrestling worldwide. And I think we did great about that. And now people starts to talk about them, and we see those names pretty much everywhere. So I think that's one of the thing I'm more proud about what we did is we see those people starting to be recognized everywhere. So that's a really good point for us.
Well, you talk about the buzz there, Stefan, about Femme Fatale. I think that brings us on to the next question quite neatly. It was back at the Pro Wrestling Eve show. I spoke to Angelina Love, and I asked her about Femme Fatale because she's Canadian and you're Canadian. I thought it might be something that she might have heard of, and she admits she has heard of it. And she is one of a number of names over the past year who've left WWE and TNA. Some of them by choice. And what effect do you think having these women return back to the independent wrestling scene might have on women's wrestling promotions? Just the possibility of having maybe a former WWE diva or a former TNA knockout on the show.
Depending on the wrestler, I personally I can say that Angelina Love will bring more people than Mercedes Martinez in a Montreal show. I don't think so. I don't think as a people, Angelina Love will bring more people, for example, because we're talking about her. I maybe think, though, that the Beautiful People together will bring more people, but not her, or Velvet Sky, whatever. The thing is, the Montreal crowd will be ready to come see a good show if they are able to see why it will be a good show. I don't know if I made it clear. One of the things with the Montreal crowd is they will come to see the local talent before the big names, and it's the same thing with all the promotion in the province of Quebec. Is same if we tried, for example, one of the good example I can say is we had start of last year we had Billy Gunn and X-Pac coming as the Generation X at the NCW, and there was not there was 125 140 people in the crowd. And I don't think it's a marketing problem. It's just people don't care to see those wrestlers. I know the Montreal crowd is harder, I think, than most of the crowd. They are really old school crowd. They are really they like to be involved in the show, and I don't think for our crowd a name would bring more people in assistance. So that's one of the reason why, because those people, I know they won't come for $1 also, and I need to check every time if it's worth it to pay that that amount of money for a wrestler, and if it's yes the answer, then it will be on my show. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Was that something that yourself, Drew, or yourself, Dave, would agree with, or do you think there is the possibility of drawing up maybe some different kind of fans by having somebody who is a former quote-unquote name on your show?
Dave, do you want to field this one first?
Yeah, I'll give a quick, concise answer. And anyone who's followed Shimmer pretty much has picked up on this. We don't really bring in people that are fresh off TV just because they're a television name. Shimmer's more about creating our own stars. If you look at the 7+ years that we've been doing this, the Shimmer stars are Mischief, Sarah Del Rey, Cheerleader Melissa, Daisy Hayes, Lacey. None of them had national television exposure. I mean, Melissa for a little while, but I mean, she was working for us for several years before she was ever on TV. I think just for an independent crowd, and especially for us in Berwyn in a 250-seat building, it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money on a name. But sometimes it does depend on the show, though. We're doing that show WrestleMania weekend at WrestleCon, where if we had a big enough show, we could draw 1,000 people. So that's one show where we're going to make an exception and try to stack it a little bit. And try to appeal to some of the fans of WWE, casual wrestling fans. It makes sense for a show like that to put Amazing Kong back on it, because she will be a difference of probably a few hundred tickets at the gate that day. But in terms of Berwyn and the regular shows, I'm not too quick to spend a bunch of money on somebody just because they were on TV, because I think our fans will appreciate the homegrown talent just as much.
Yeah, I have a tendency to agree with that. I mean, if it's a situation of the audience that you've cultivated, and a lot of the fans that watch Shimmer, that watch WSU, that watch NCW, they're watching it because they want an alternative to what they see on TV. And I think that if somebody's not even good enough to be on TV, obviously that's not always the case. It's not a matter of ability. More often than not, that's not the case. But it's an issue if they're not going to be competing on TV, but they were competing on TV, then perhaps our fan base wouldn't have wanted to support them in the first place, unless it's the type of wrestler where they've established in front of that audience, somebody like Mickie James, who came up through the indies, somebody that the fans were able to support on her way to television. Then that might be a bit of a different situation. But if the Bellas wanted $15,000 to make an appearance at a WSU show, I don't think that's something that we would pull the trigger on, even if it was to drum up a little bit more interest. And I certainly don't think that we would see a return on that, and I don't think that that's something that would resonate with the majority of the fans that we're already trying to produce a product for. I'm more interested, though, in terms of with all of the wrestlers that have been on television that are now sort of back on the indies or have more control over their bookings, what gaps that's going to leave in the major organizations and what effect that might have on some of the organizations if WWE or TNA are looking to pick up some of the other wrestlers that are currently on the indies. Maybe in a larger quantity than they normally would have.
So it sounds like if you're somebody who's been released from WWE or TNA for whatever reason, it sounds like you kind of need to make a niche for yourself, I suppose, and be the one that's. What's the best way to describe it? You got to essentially, you can't just bank on the fact that you are just a former knockout from a DME. You have to actually bring something to the show.
Exactly, and if like I said, if you think it's worth it to have that wrestler to our show, and you think it will add to our show, I think this time it will be a good idea to have her like a girl like Dave said for Kong. We know she already she always has been a good draw in Montreal, and we'll probably have her back soon. But it's I don't think it's the same thing for everybody that goes out of TNA and WWE. So that's pretty much the reason why we're trying to use first our talent or a wrestler that we know we can count on every show, and then we add people that will add something to the show instead of just having a name.
Yeah, I think if a wrestler like Beth Phoenix was to become available, that would be a different situation than, say, what was that girl who was wrestling in the corset with Derek Bateman? Maxine?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's a different situation. I think it all depends on the audience that you cultivate.
Well, that brings the question then of as far as you guys as indie wrestling promoters, how concerned are you that you big stars are going to be picked up by the big two then if they've suddenly got spaces on their roster?
I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I've realized over the years that as soon as somebody gets signed and moves on in their career and starts making real money, it's not really going to hurt the independent product that much. Again, it sounds weird to say that when Sarah Del Rey was such a huge part of Shimmer and then now she's gone. But the fact is, the other people on the roster are going to step up their game and they're going to take those spots. And all that really matters at the end of the day is whether or not the fans in the seats and the fans watching the DVD enjoy the show. And if they have a good time and they see some quality wrestling, they're going to be supportive of the product. And even though Sarah left and, Madison Eagles and Serena Deeb, who were two huge parts of Shimmer for years, both sidelined with injury all year. And, even though those three, Sarah, Serena, and Madison were all absent, it's still one of the years of Shimmer, top to bottom, match-wise, that I like the most. And that's nothing against those three wrestlers, but it says a lot about how someone like Athena and Kelly Skater and Courtney Rush and Hamada and Kana and everybody just they caught everyone's attention and took their minds off the fact that some of the other wrestlers were missing. So if somebody gets signed, for one thing, it's great for them because they're going to make a living doing this shit. And number two, it gives opportunities to people that wouldn't have otherwise been in main events. If Sarah Del Rey was occupying a good half of those main events, and same with Madison Eagles, and with both of them off the books, that gave someone like Athena and like Kelly Skater a chance to main event and prove that they could do it. So I think it's a very not only important part of independent wrestling, but a good part of independent wrestling when somebody gets signed, because everybody benefits.
Exactly. Dave, if you don't mind me jumping in, do you think that there's a third benefit too, as far as, when one of your top wrestlers gets signed, is it usually the type of situation where that brings more eyeballs to the Shimmer product? Is that something that you found, or do those two audiences typically stay separate?
They probably stay pretty separate. It's hard to tell whether or not when Serena got signed, suddenly people were buying Shimmer DVDs to see who Serena was. I mean, granted, she didn't really wrestle much on WWE, but I really don't. I didn't really see a spike in DVD sales when somebody got signed or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that'll be more familiar with someone if they see them on TV and then hear, oh, they wrestled somewhere else. Like, I'm sure that Ring of Honor's DVD sales might on older shows might have gone up a little bit when Punk started getting a huge push. But it's hard to say. I guess it could be a benefit, sure. Maybe you would realize a little bit more than anyone else whether or not people are buying like old WSU DVDs with AJ or not. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm quite with Dave here with that assumption, because I think it would. I would be really happy if one of like the people on the roster would be signed, and I know there will be people like that will like to take your place on the roster, because there's so many talent on the indie scene right now, and everybody is pushing to be on top. And that's a good thing. So personally, and like we said, I only think it can bring more attention to our product personally. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not too much of a concern of mine. I think that, again, as we're trying to get everything set back up, without making too many changes as far as WSU, I feel like I'm still so new to the process that if somebody was to get picked up, I guess I would be happy for them for being able to make more money. I think that's what everybody would like to do in wrestling, ideally. But I don't know. I don't think it would have too much of an effect on the day-to-day. I think to reiterate what's already been said, that there's plenty of talent on the independent scene, and to be able to be one of the platforms that they would, look to compete at in order to raise their profile, I think that WSU would still be able to achieve that with or without some of the wrestlers on the roster.
One final point on that subject before we move on. I think the only thing that it really impacts in terms of independent wrestling when somebody gets signed is if that person is a current title holder. Then it causes problems. Otherwise, if it's just a regular roster member, they can be replaced,
Well, there's probably a story there about what happened with Del Rey and Courtney Rush's Shimmer tag titles.
Well, that was just because they didn't get along.
Indeed.
Wink. Yeah. No, I mean, but that's the risk that you take, and so there are 3 people on the list that I hope don't get signed right away, or at least get signed but are allowed to finish up some indie bookings first.
Well, actually, I mean, you do bring up a good point here. I mean, we're bringing you 3 guys together, and certainly in the case of Dave and Drew, it's the first time you guys have ever interacted with each other. Dave, you had that good relationship with Stefan that when you needed to swap titles on Femme Fatale show, you could do that. How important is it with all 3 of you guys to have a, maybe not necessarily a working relationship, but just a dialogue between you guys because you're all kind of in the same boat?
Personally, I think, and always, like, even in business, in life, or whatever, I always think that you must have a good relationship with pretty much everybody to have a better view or a better chance to do good things. And I think being in the small world that is the women's wrestling, there's no space to be a bad guy or to be a bad promotion. I think personally, I love all promotions. I love to go see those promotions and to see the difference, and it helps me to try to do something different also in Montreal. So personally, I really think, in my own opinion, in the small world there is the women's wrestling. If everybody is working, like, not in agreement, but at least on the same page, it can only help the product at the end. So yeah, that's my point.
We called Femme Fatale the Get Along Gang in this summer, because it seems like it's like the Switzerland of women's wrestling promotions. Everyone just seems to get along with this promotion that's going on in Quebec.
Well, thanks. I think that was one of my my goal with Lufisto at the start. Is we can't afford to burn bridges with anybody, and I think we are trying our best to stay on the same page than everybody, to not piss anybody off. And yeah, I'm really happy with the relationship we have with Shimmer or WSU and Drew and Dave. I think I'm really happy with that. We're like able to speak easily of anything about it. So yeah.
I think WSU had a reputation of almost being notorious for not working with other organizations before I took over. And I mean, one of the reasons that I was able to grow Beyond Wrestling, like, literally from nothing, is because we were able to work with other organizations and help out where we could. And, I'd like to apply that same idea to WSU going forward, not only working with other women's wrestling organizations, but what we can do with the men's organizations. Beyond Wrestling, we ran a doubleheader with when we did our first show back, Full Steam Ahead. We're going to be doing a doubleheader coming up with CCW, which I really think, from a branding perspective, really positions WSU as something that's different from some of the other women's promotions that are out there. Because again, it's all about trying to get along, but trying to find your own piece of the pie without necessarily going and taking somebody else's off the table. In addition to that, I mean, WSU, we were lucky enough to be able to get a spot with National Pro Wrestling Day, so we're going to be able to put our best foot forward along with 24 other men's organizations. So I definitely think it's really important to try and work together while not stepping on each other's toes. And I credit a lot of the success of the WSU relaunch, if you wanted to look at it like that, to working with NCW Femme Fatales, because I was surprised when I took over and I spoke with the previous owner. He's like, "Oh, by the way, there's this working relationship with another company," and I was surprised just because of WSU's reputation, and I had reservations, before I was able to gather enough information to realize why it was such a good idea. And I think that not only were Calamity and Lufisto standout performers on our Full Steam Ahead event, as the reviews have started to come in since the DVDs have gone out, Calamity versus Leva Bates and Lufisto versus Mercedes Martinez are getting the most praise. I was also surprised with the number of DVDs that got shipped to the Montreal area. So I definitely think that working relationships are beneficial for all involved, especially if each of the organizations can make sure that they're presenting something different. Just like when you have different wrestling personalities in a match, it's sort of the way that they complement each other and the way that they interact that make each match something special. I think that could be said for the wrestling promotions too. And now that this line of communication has been opened up through this podcast with Dave Prazak, I mean, if the opportunity presents itself for WSU and Shimmer to work together in the future, which is something that hasn't happened in a number of years, as I learned before we went on the air, that's definitely something that I would be open to.
The one thing that I hate the most about independent wrestling is when there's stupid bullshit going on between promotions. And you find it everywhere. It's fucking stupid. It's usually two companies that run the same city. Sometimes one promotion starts running another promotion's venue, and they're pissed off. And you can't work for this promotion if you want to work for us. And that's like the dumbest thing in independent wrestling, is when people try to force talent to not work for someone else. or it's just petty, stupid shit fighting over the same 200 fans that could be supporting both products. So I think one of the most important things about independent wrestling is the promotions need to work with one another. I mean, maybe not co-promote shows, but at least have a supportive dialogue with one another so that an independent wrestling fan will be open to at least sampling all the different products that are out there. I mean, typically an independent wrestling fan will support multiple different companies. It's very difficult to get someone who's just a WWE fan to suddenly start watching small-time wrestling, National Guard Armory wrestling. It's difficult to convince them that you don't need thousands of people in the crowd and all the pyro and everything to enjoy a wrestling show. But on the independent level, I think it's very important everybody work together. And honestly, there's only been that one person in the world of women's wrestling that I have ever not gotten along with, and that was just a personal thing. It had nothing to do with the product. But like Stefan's at the vast majority of the Shimmer shows. And Sal from Shine down in Florida is head of production for us. He's at all the Shimmer shows too, filming. And I'm always talking to him about not only, Shimmer DVD business, but about, getting on the same page as far as plans for both Shimmer and Shine. Dan Reed, I've never actually met the guy in person, but we've talked a lot. And, we had a merch trade for a while where Shimmer DVDs were available at the Eve shows, Eve DVDs were available at the Shimmer shows. Obviously, what is it? What's the new WAWW name?
Bellatrix.
There you go. The Shimmer champion is the promoter. So obviously there's a working agreement there. Obviously Madison Eagles, she runs PWWA in Australia. She was our champion for a while. So it's like, it's natural that small wrestling companies that are all fighting over the same fans not be fighting. You try to make your products available to everyone and encourage fans to sample everyone's shows so that everyone can be making money. Most importantly, the wrestlers who are appearing on the shows. So that's my take.
The more places that wrestlers themselves have to compete, the better, the faster they're going to get better.
Yep.
I want to get a little bit philosophical here if I can, and talk about everyone working together, and that's always nice. But the one thing that I know about you three guys and also the other promotions you mentioned is that they've all got their own specific feel. None of them really feel like a homogenized, like this is women's wrestling product. Shimmer's different to WSU, it's different from Femme Fatale, different to Eve, Bellatrix, whatever. Do you think basically the style of those promotions basically come from you guys? Like, is the promotion a reflection of the booker as far as that's concerned?
I feel like anything that is run in the Northeast, probably in the last 10 years, is something that was born out of the ECW mentality. And unfortunately, ECW is not something that I grew up watching. I really got into independent wrestling probably when Ring of Honor first came to prominence. So in that regard, if WSU had much of an influence from ECW in the past, I still like the idea of pushing the envelope, but I think that perhaps it needs to be pushed in a different direction. Just for the sake of being gratuitous isn't necessarily something that, being gratuitous for the sake of being gratuitous isn't something that interests me. I'm more interested in seeing what we can do to push wrestling forward, just as we have been with the Beyond Wrestling Project, to try and spotlight wrestlers that maybe nobody else has heard of, to try and give them that platform. And, if there's a hierarchy set up on the indies as far as women's wrestling, and if Shimmer's at the top, maybe it's the type of situation where if there's wrestlers that are coming through WSU, maybe they can find a way to Shimmer someday, and that'll be looked at a place where WSU has stepped in to help out, and or if they're able to get an opportunity with WWE down the line, or whatever the case may be. I like having the opportunity to work with wrestlers, helping them hone their craft and figure out what exactly works for them that's going to be the most beneficial, so that they can move on to bigger and better things. I don't mind, at least with Beyond Wrestling, being a stepping stone, and if that sort of mentality carries through to WSU going forward, that's fine. But that doesn't mean that I want to eliminate some of the hardcore elements, some of the gimmick matches and stuff like that. And obviously, as more information comes out, as we start to announce our lineup with CZW on February 9th, I definitely want to make sure to stay true to the original spirit of WSU without necessarily being vulgar just for the sake of being different. I don't think it's necessary to rely on such cheap tactics to stay different.
And I think if, for my part, if the Northeast is more like ECW, like Drew just said, I think Montreal crowd is like a really old territory. The crowd is really old school. The territory is really old school by itself. The Montreal crowd will more react on a match with like strong characters than like really like wrestling clinic, for example. So that's why we're trying to, as of Femme Fatale, we're trying to do shows that will bring the best character that we can find, the most charismatic wrestler that we can find, and maybe not like the most technical wrestler ever, because the Montreal crowd may not care about him or her. And for Femme Fatale, I think one of the things, like you said, it's really tied to the old mentality of the Quebec wrestling, that the characters will have a bigger reaction than the wrestling. So that's one of the things about us, about Femme Fatale, that makes it maybe a little bit different than Shimmer or WSU, because we're trying to bring the bigger stories. That's not what I want to say. That we're trying to put more emphasis on the character itself than on the wrestling. So that's one of the things also.
As far as my opinion on that, I think a lot of it has to do with location, kind of like what Stefan was just saying about how what works in Montreal might not necessarily work in another city, and you have to, like, to that extent, because the vast majority of the Femme Fatale crowd is local Montreal fans rather than people that are traveling. You have to book to that audience to be successful and to draw. And it's going to sound like a preposterous comparison, but if you think back years ago to when there was the territory system, I mean, we're drawing a couple hundred people and they were drawing thousands back in the day. But like, if you look at Texas wrestling, compare that to Memphis wrestling, compared to the Northeast, compared to Mid-Atlantic, compared to Florida, a lot of the same top talent in the industry was working all of those different cities. They'd pass through at different times of the year. But, I mean, they sometimes worked a different style depending on the area. And I think a lot of that is similar nowadays. I mean, granted, back in the day, people in Florida weren't getting tapes of Memphis necessarily, or getting tapes of Texas. But and nowadays, everybody's getting DVDs of everything. But I think of it as, I'm the Chicago promoter. Stefan's Montreal, Drew is the Northeast, Sal is Florida, etc. Where you don't necessarily have to have completely different rosters from one another. You can have the same top talent, because everyone obviously wants to book who they feel is going to be the best talent for their particular show in their particular city. And I try to look at it that way. It's like, I'm going to book whoever I want in Chicago for my Chicago crowd. And, you know, whoever Stefan thinks is going to work best in Montreal, he's going to book them. I try to not even think about the fact that, okay, how many people are on the Shimmer show that are also appearing on this promotion's show? It's like, well, I mean, he's running Montreal. I'm never going to run Montreal. And I'm never going to run in the Northeast except for the WrestleCon thing. That's a one-time thing. We're not going to be running there regularly. You know, that was just because Sal talked me into doing Mania weekend out there. So it's like, I don't know. I think that there's no problem with everybody using similar talent. I mean, I think at this point there's probably 1/3 of the roster crosses over into other companies right now. Like, there's a lot of people that are on Shimmer that have never even appeared in Montreal. There's a lot of WSU talent that's never been in Shimmer. There's, you know, there's at least one in particular WSU wrestler who I plan on integrating into Shimmer in 2013. But, like, I don't think that necessarily is going to hurt any of the other promotions if I suddenly start booking people in Chicago that happen to also wrestle in another part of the world. And as far as the feel of the promotions, if that was what the original question was, it's a combination of what that city wants in their wrestling and the vision of whoever is in control creatively of that company. It's a combination of both. I like keeping it all ages, so that when there is a fan who's, in his 40s that says, hey, I've got 3 daughters that want to come see the show who are between the ages of 8 and 13, I can say, yes, our product is suitable for all ages. That's me. I mean, some people like to push the envelope, like WSU in the past with lots of violence and profanity and stuff like that. But that's their choice to run that type of show. I like to keep it all ages, but not everybody's going to see the same thing in a talent in terms of who they want to book, and not everybody sees the same thing in what the overall presentation, what they'd like it to be. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but
I think it does. Let's switch to another topic that we've got here, because 2012 seems to be the year of internet pay-per-view. Seems like lots of different promotions kind of dipped their toe into the ocean and saw what it was like, and some of them found it beneficial, some of them didn't. But as far as yourselves are concerned, Drew, WSU had iPay-per-view before you took over. You've decided that that's not the direction you want to go in right now. Femme Fatale, Stefan, there's no plans, as far as I understand, for you to do iPay-per-view. But Dave,
yes,
you're running your first iPay-per-view. It's going to be the Shimmer Show at WrestleCon, like you mentioned that in the Northeast.
Likely.
We heard that it was going to be. This is going to be taking place.
I think Lenny Leonard said that on commentary on a Shine show about how everything would be iPay-per-view, but I have not 100% committed to the idea yet. It's probably going to happen, but I don't know. And I was asking Sal the other day, how many of the other shows are actually going to be iPay-per-view? Like, is Chikara going to be an iPay-per-view? I know that Quack has made sure to not do a bunch of iPay-per-views every year, so that the few that he does all mean more. So I don't know if what Lenny said on that show is necessarily true. A lot of them will be iPay-per-view, and Shimmer probably will be, but I haven't officially made up my mind yet.
I mean, what's your thoughts on iPay-per-view then?
In general, I think that the technology is not completely there yet, so that fans can feel that it is a completely reliable way to watch wrestling, because you never know when the stream's going to go out, or when there's technical problems, or when the server is going to be overloaded and you can't watch the show. And that hasn't the one thing that this is the reason why I'm strongly leaning toward doing iPay-per-view for Volume 53 is the WWN equipment and their history of putting on these shows for Shine and Dragon Gate and Evolve. I don't think they've had a problem at all with broadcasting their shows flawlessly for probably a year and a half now. I don't think, Ring of Honor had a bunch of problems with theirs, obviously, and Go Fight Live always had a lot of problems, but Sal's reliability rate is much greater than those other companies that were. So I have more confidence in doing it with Sal in a place where there's already going to be several other iPay-per-views that weekend, and if those all go smoothly, the Shimmer one will go smoothly. So I don't know, it's a great idea to be able to do a show in front of a couple hundred people and have potentially thousands of people watching it all over the world on their computer. But what are we going to be able to actually say that it's a flawless way to deliver products to fans in early 2013? Probably not, but probably by 2015 it's going to be a flawless medium. I still believe, I'm a firm believer in the fact that if you sell a DVD to somebody and they press play, it's going to work. You can watch the show. That's the most reliable way of getting your video to the fans, so they can watch it without interruption.
Yeah, I understand that fans want, from around the world would love to see for example, a Femme Fatale show on directly online. Personally, I'm really not a fan of iPay-per-views. I watched some. I've saw too many of them having difficulties. And that's a huge if I was going to do an iPay-per-view, I think I would do it with a company that knows that has a never had, or that in the last couple of occasions they didn't have any problem. And I think Sal and WWN, I think, had a good thing going on, and maybe I'll like if somebody's telling me, hey, Stefan, we want to produce a Femme Fatale pay-per-view, and okay, can you prove me that you're reliable? And if yes, okay, but me personally, I don't want the day of the show. There's so many things to work on, like on the shows, backstage, and extra. But I don't need that stress, and that's one of my point is I don't need to have that stress, that extra stress the day of the show. That the pay-per-view may fall down or may not work. So yeah, personally, I'm not a huge fan. Like, I'm more open right now than I was maybe 6 months ago, because I saw how Shine is doing, and I saw that they don't have any problem with it. So yeah, I'm more open, but I'm still not convinced. So yeah, that's
one other point before Drew gives his answer. Just before I forget, and I would like fans to hear this explanation. The Eagles Club does not have an internet connection, so even if we really wanted to do iPay-per-view out of that building, we couldn't. I mean, I guess there would be a way, maybe, but they don't have an internet connection, so like it would be difficult to even try. And on top of that, it's also a matter of because we use so much international talent. We need to do a 4 DVDs taped in one weekend format, and when you're doing that, how do you do iPay-per-view? Like, do you try to do 4 iPay-per-views in a span of like 40 hours?
No,
that wouldn't work. And I'm really happy with the commentary team that we've got on the DVDs right now with myself and Portia Perez, and both of us have duties during the show itself in the back that like we'd have to have a different commentary team if we were going to do iPay-per-view. So I think WrestleCon is probably going to be the only time you're going to see a Shimmer pay-per-view anytime soon. So anyway, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, let me say, I wish the technology was reliable enough that I felt confident to do an iPay-per-view for our launch, because a lot of fans were asking for it, and I think, once I crunched the numbers, I realized that, we took a hit financially as a result from not running an iPay-per-view, but at the end of the day, I want to be able to present the best product possible, and if there's even a remote chance that there's going to be a flaw, I don't think that that's fair to the paying customer, and unless there's a backup plan to make good on it, or unless the fans know well ahead of time, that they're really taking a risk, I don't necessarily think it was the best option to pursue. So, we've tried to find different ways to get footage out as quickly as possible. One of the things that we did from the most recent show is we had one of the wrestlers that was competing for Beyond Wrestling early in the day sit with a fan cam in the crowd, and we were able to get that footage online for anybody that had pre-ordered the show. So they were able to see basically a rough cut of the show to get a feel for the matches within, I think, a 48-hour period of the show. And then from there, now that the DVD's been released, we want to try and get it as many platforms as possible, the DVDs, the video-on-demand streaming, the MP4 downloads, and hopefully continue to do so. But it's just one of those things where it's like, at the end of the day, it sucks knowing that you could be making more money running the iPay-per-view, but if it doesn't work, like, how much more damage are you going to do by presenting a subpar product? And, pardon the pun, but I mean that's something that I've wrestled with, and I think that with the doubleheader coming up with CZW, I mean that's still not something that I've confirmed one way or another as far as we're going to be doing an iPay-per-view, and I don't know, technology's not there yet. Like, nobody's been able to do a flawless one. Like, Ring of Honor just announced that they just changed their iPay-per-view provider for Final Battle, and I know that by the time this podcast is out, I'm sure it'll either have revealed to be a good or a bad decision one way or another. But it's just like, even if the fans want it, sometimes you just have to do what's going to be best overall.
And again, it's not all just a technical issue. I mean, we're making it sound like it's definitely not reliable. Like I said, the WWN, they haven't had a problem in probably, it might even be 2 years now. Like, I can't remember the last time that the feed went out during a show and they had to refund anybody's money. I mean, that may have happened like in the first 2 or 3 iPay-per-views they've done, and they've done about 25 since then that have been flawless. So I don't want to make it sound like it's all technology based. Like, for me personally, and one of the reasons it takes a long time for the Shimmer DVDs to get released is I am very picky about the DVD edit. We do a 4-camera shoot of every show, and I like to take a look at pretty much every camera angle of everything before we release the DVD, so I make sure that each match is presented the best way possible. And iPay-per-view, you're doing live switching, and I'd rather, this is just me personally, I'd rather that when a fan sees video of one of our matches, that they see the best camera angles possible for every big move in the match. But that's me. I'd rather take the time to present the match the way I want it seen, and be picky about the edit than do live switching just to get it out quicker.
I still can't believe that the Eagles Club hasn't got an internet connection. It's like we've been thrust back to the 1980s.
Another thing that pisses me off about the Eagles Club, and you probably noticed this either sitting in the seats watching the show or watching it on DVD, is they've got that phone in the back that's so loud that, like, in the middle of the match, you can hear a phone ringing. If somebody calls the Eagles, it's so fucking annoying, and there's no way to edit it out. But anyway.
Yeah, same thing for us also. We don't have any internet access in Centre Saint-Barthélemy in Montreal, so yeah, that's one of the other, like, reason why... We'll say that way. We can't have an IP preview right now. So there's probably ways, but yeah, that's it.
As far as having a format to show too, like I like having a little bit of flexibility to be able to go with the flow as I'm producing the show live, to not have to stick to such strict time constraints. And obviously, if you're presenting it for a worldwide audience, and there's all sorts of different cues being given from the people that, between running the camera and running the mixer. It's nice to have that flexibility to be able to adapt to what the crowd wants, to be able to maybe change something on the fly that you wouldn't have that same flexibility if you were presenting something live to a worldwide audience.
And for the people who love iPay-per-view, all of the Shine shows are iPay-per-view. And I think Dan Reed's doing pretty much every show as an iPay-per-view from now on. I'm not sure. But I mean, there's live iPay-per-view indie wrestling. That's kind of why Shine exists. It's because Sal kind of knew. I mean, this is one of the reasons. I mean, he wanted to make money on it, but one of the reasons why that product is something different from Shimmer is that is the iPay-per-view version of women's wrestling, using a lot of the same talent that we have on the Shimmer shows, because Sal knows I'm not going to do iPay-per-view from the Eagles Club. So he has a market that he can tap into and make money off iPay-per-view.
Let's talk about talent. We've, as we record this, we're going to announce our awards for this past year on the website. We've picked Ayako Hamada for our Wrestler of the Year award. Thoughts on Wrestler of the Year? Would Ayako Hamada qualify for you guys, or is there anyone else that should be within that discussion?
No, I think Ayako is the obvious choice. I don't think she had any bad match that I saw in North America, so it means in Shimmer this year. Like, out of my 10 favorite match I've seen this year, there's 6 of her, so that's a reason. 6 out of 8 she did in Shimmer, and 6 out of 10 are in my top 10 favorite match. She's amazing. She's if she wasn't back in Japan, I will probably try to use her every show. She's just amazing. She's the best right now. She's when we talk about quality of matches, there's nobody that can top what she can do. There are a lot of great wrestlers. Like we know Mercedes Martinez, we know Lufisto, we know like cheerleader Melissa. Those are like really, really great wrestlers, and they had good years, but none of them had the year that Amada had this year.
Yeah, when you have a wrestler who, like Stefan just said, I mean, he took a lot of the words right out of my mouth. When you have a wrestler who only had 8 matches in North America during the year, and like 5 or 6 of them are in your top 10 matches of the year for all of women's wrestling, it's a no-brainer. That person's the wrestler of the year when Hamada's the one key thing in all of those matches. And there are a lot of people that had great years. Saraya Knight had a great year. She built her reputation throughout the world through both her promos and her wrestling and everything, and just competing everywhere. Lufisto and Mercedes having matches everywhere that like tore the house down everywhere they wrestled each other. They both had great years. Mercedes had some of the best matches on the Shine pay-per-views all year. So again, a lot of people had fantastic years. Athena, another one that comes to mind. But when it comes right down to it, if you were to, this is what kind of my thought on the whole thing. If you were to take any one wrestler off of the Shimmer shows and try to envision what the shows would have been like match quality wise, no one would impact the shows more in terms of taking away the best matches than if Hamada were not there. And the fact that she was there and had those great matches makes her the most important person on the shows and Wrestler of the Year. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I actually had the privilege to call a match between Hamada and Aja Kong for Joshi Mania last year, and I was super impressed from what I had seen. And unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to work with Hamada this year. But as far as the wrestlers that we were able to work with for WSU, Lufisto and Mercedes Martinez, that 30-minute draw that they did at Full Steam Ahead was just a sight to behold. And I think it elevated the show to a level where I wasn't even expecting it to go. Lufisto's only done 2 matches, I believe, for WSU so far, but I'm really interested in seeing what she's going to be able to contribute in 2013. I've always been more so an independent wrestling fan rather than just specifically a women's fan growing up. I've always been a huge fan of her work, and I've got to give credit to Jessica Havoc, too. I think that Jessica Havoc has done a very good job cultivating a very specific audience, a very loyal fan base, and I was going back and rewatching because we did between the Beyond and WSU doubleheader, we did some Beyond versus WSU matches, and she actually did a match with Mr. Touchdown, just to be able to see some of the small things that really add up at the end of when you're evaluating a match. She was just firing on all cylinders, so I'm definitely excited to see what Havoc's going to be able to do in 2013 as well. But I'd say that Mercedes and Havoc, their matches at the beginning of the year, and then just Havoc's been able to continue that momentum through the rest of 2012.
One of Havoc's main running buddies, of course, is Allysin Kay. She's our pick for Breakout Star of the Year. Who's broken through this year for you guys?
I'll start with... Oh,
okay. No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think Marty Bell is somebody that, from the Northeast, has really done a good job as far as improving her in-ring ability and then really getting her name out there, working with a number of different organizations. I think that Marty Bell is as close to what we would have as far as if you were to evaluate a women's wrestler, as far as being a total package. And, the more seasoning she gets, the more appearances that she's able to make, the better she's going to be able to get in the ring. So as long as she's able to stay healthy, I think that Marty Bell is somebody that's going to be the breakout wrestler for WSU at least.
We're doing a Shimmer Awards poll on our message board right now, and for that category, the same top 3 wrestlers are being mentioned by pretty much everyone as far as Shimmer is concerned, and that would be Athena, Kelly Skater, and Courtney Rush. Anyone who's seen the Courtney Rush, Sarah Del Rey forming a tag team and then winning the titles, and Courtney after that, she became a star during 2012 to our fans. Kelly Skater, from a wrestling standpoint, went from an opening match wrestler to headlining and being someone that everyone in the building during the Shimmer 51 main event thought had a chance to win the title. And it's not you can't easily do that. You need to have the right talent to really convince the fans that you're not just an opening match act anymore. And Kelly Skater's wrestling has improved to the point that she was able to pull that off. And she's going back to Japan now as a result. And of course, Athena had fantastic matches with everybody this year. Her matches with Mercedes Martinez, her and Saraya Knight main event match, her and Kana, her and Nakagawa. Athena's had a great year everywhere that she's wrestled this year. But besides those 3, which is everybody's focusing on, I'd like to point out 2 other people. I mean, maybe it wasn't a fantastic year everywhere, but people that really broke out in terms of showing that they're capable of more than they have in the past, that I think everyone should keep their eye on for 2013. The first one is Melanie Cruz, who's kind of been an afterthought on Shimmer shows for a couple of years. But we put her with Hiroyo Matsumoto on our last show, and it was, I think a lot of people would agree, that was Melanie Cruz's best wrestling match ever. And a lot of that did have to do with, obviously if you're going to wrestle somebody the level of Matsumoto, it's going to be a fantastic match, but she proved that she could hang with that opponent on that night. It was a great display of what Melanie's capable of. Another one, again, another person who wrestled Hiroyo was Sassy Steffi. I think we're going to see big things from her in the future, too.
In Montreal, we had a couple of people that really stepped up their game this year. Like for Quebec, I think Angie Sky really had a great year wrestling-wise. She had a really good first match with Jessie McKay in March, and then she started to roll with that momentum, and she had an amazing storyline with cheerleader Melissa during her Femme Fatale 10 show, which started in the 4-way, and then she went one-on-one with Melissa, and they did a really good job of working that match together. I think Angie has some things to work on, and she's been sometimes we need to take her a little bit by the hand and bring her to the next step. But this year she proved that she can be the next one in Quebec that can really break out. She one other person I can talk about Courtney Rush, because she already had her breakout in Montreal the year before when she faced Madison Eagles. This year she had another good year. Beside if we storyline wise, she had a bad show in July where she lost against the Militia, and she lost against the Ninjas for the belt. But she had a really strong year, and I think she'll have also a big year in 2013 in Montreal. And another person I think that will have that at the breakout last show is, as a tag team, is Zandra Bell and Leah Van Dutch. Together they work really well, first in a triple threat with Ryo Mizunami, and then together in the 3 versus 3 they did some good stuff together. So I'm really looking forward to see how I can push them to face bigger names during next year.
Any opinions on our own pick then of Alison Kay as far as the year she's had this past year?
One of the reasons that I didn't mention her specifically is because you guys did, but I just think that she's come into her own so much with her presence. It's kind of weird, because when she first came into wrestling, the only place that she was wrestling was this organization BCWA up in Michigan. And when Beyond Wrestling started in Ohio, we were working with a lot of the guys that wrestled with BCWA, and the only female competitor we had up to that point was Haley Hatred. And so Alison Kay, came up mostly wrestling men, and so when she came in, she did a match for Beyond Wrestling. I want to say it was back in March of 2010, and some of the officials from AIW were on hand for that, and so she was able to earn bookings through that. And it's just to be able to see her first appearance outside of her home promotion, how far she's come. It's almost like two totally different wrestlers, but she's been able to keep all of the attributes that I thought were going to help her stand out in the first place, and just improve all of the other aspects of her game. And as we move forward, taping the tournament for tomorrow, next weekend, which I guess by the time you guys are hearing it will be this weekend, and she's going to be, have the opportunity once again to match up with some of her male counterparts. I'm very interested in seeing what she's going to be capable of, and what she intends to do to finish the year strong, because she's one of those competitors that can definitely get it done in the ring, no matter who's standing across from her. Just from her striking to her presence, she's a standout competitor for sure.
I think when we talked to her on the podcast earlier this year, she kind of admitted that getting her nose broken earlier in the year, and the sort of the eyes that looked and saw that, and the fact that she continued the match early in the year, that kind of started her momentum. And then, of course, winning the AIW Women's Championship, Steel Cage main events, tag team champions for yourself in WSU, reinventing herself with Taylor Made and Maiden Sin down in Shine, and in Shimmer as well.
If you think back, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
If you think back, the best thing that happened to Alison Kay was getting her nose broken.
Yeah, she
because of the fact, and I'll just point this out because we don't have an AIW voice on this show.
We haven't got 4 Kings. I'm sorry.
Exactly, no Kings.
It doesn't work with the gimmick.
But if that injury hadn't happened, that was a fluke thing, and the promotion ran with it, and Mia Yim and Alison Kay ran with it, and they got a series of matches out of that built Alice. I mean, that did a lot in establishing Alison Kay, just on those shows. Because it turned into a feud that caught everyone's attention, and now she is the female wrestler that is like the pushed female wrestler in that promotion right now. And like her having a standout year in AIW, in addition to what she and TaylorMade were able to do down in Shine, is a big reason why she was given an opportunity in Shimmer as well. So I look forward to seeing what both she and Taylor can do as a tag team coming up in 2013, and trying to put her in some singles matches as well to see what she can do in the Shimmer environment as a singles wrestler.
It's kind of funny how with as wrestling promoters, it's our job to sort of fabricate these circumstances to try and help these wrestlers get spotlighted, and then when something real happens, that's when Allysin Kay was finally able to demonstrate to that audience just how tough she really was. I mean, something that maybe we have all picked up on over the years for those that have worked with her, just how tough she really is. But, especially that visual just of the blood coming out of her nose. It's a shame that something like that had to happen, with an injury. But like just as Dave said, I mean, that was really the turning point where more
worked.
eyeballs were on her.
It worked to get her over, and a lot of people say it in wrestling a lot. Sometimes the biggest and the best feuds and storylines have a basis in reality. I mean, from Shimmer, look at Sweet Saraya and Cheerleader Melissa. And the same thing was done by AIW. They took an injury and a real life thing and turned it into their top feud of the year. So,
yeah, I saw really growth of like confidence on her wrestling part this year. Like she was really more comfortable in the ring with her character, with the way she was using her charisma to get her like to be mixed with her wrestling. And it was really a good year, like a year that we can see her evolution starting to grow in confidence from show to show and from matches to matches, and Shine and with Shimmer and with her character also in WSU. I think she really showed great things in the ring, and even in Montreal she had a really good first appearance, and she'll be back on March 30th in Montreal also for her next show. And I know the crowd, that was one of the names they were really looking forward to have her back, because like we said earlier, Montreal is a really old school city. We pretty much plan everything on charisma and on working the crowd, and Allysin is a really, really good worker with the crowd, and she can be aided really easily. Like that's a positive stuff, but she can be aided really like fast in the ring, and the crowd really like to aid her that way. So I think she proved that she gained a lot of confidence during last year.
And the third of our awards this year was the Discovery of the Year. And you guys are all able to give an opinion on Allysin Kay because you've all worked with her this year. But Drew, you're the only one who can give a first-hand opinion on our Discovery of the Year, and that was Kimber Lee.
Yeah, Kimber Lee is somebody else who's just not only... She's always willing to learn and willing to listen. And I think that coming up in CCW has really helped benefit her, because, I mean, that's a tough locker room to come up in. And the fact that she's been able to win over the support of people not only in that locker room, but then in other locker rooms. I mean, she's very easy to talk to, very personable, which, as far as women's wrestlers goes, that's usually the case. As far as some of the men's wrestlers or wrestling in general, that's not always the case. So she seems to be very humble and dedicated to what she's doing. Kimber Lee is definitely somebody that I'm happy that we have the ability to work with, and I'm really interested in seeing sort of what her and Annie Social are going to continue to do as a tag team in WSU. That's something that I certainly want to try and focus on going forward, is making sure, not necessarily that everybody's going to be in a team, but that wrestlers will have alliances, because I think that makes the storytelling a little bit more interesting. And also in regards to somebody that may be, you didn't say, what was the category? Not breakout, but a new discovery?
Yeah.
As far as it goes for myself personally, I think that Addie Starr is going to be somebody to really watch out for in 2013. I had the privilege to be able to watch both of the matches she did with ISW in Connecticut over the past couple, I guess, about a year and a half. And she is so tough. Just the Lego death matches. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea as far as women's wrestling, but she's just unbelievably tough. And as a result, she has an incredible presence about her. And with a little bit more seasoning, I think that Addie Starr is going to be somebody definitely to look out for in 2013. perhaps somebody that could be an early candidate for the 2013 Early Discovery Awards list?
For me, I'm just not talking about my Discovery of the Year, but on the subject of Kimberly, that's the wrestler I was referring to, who competes for WSU that I would like to integrate into Shimmer next year. I've never met her. I've just exchanged some emails here and there. Who knows if it'll actually come together? But just based on watching some of the Girls' Night Out shows, she was the one wrestler out of the talent on those shows that isn't in Shimmer that I think would be a good fit. So I'd like to see how she does in Berwyn coming up next year. It just goes to show you, like I was saying earlier, a lot of promoters, if you have the talent, you're going to get booked by multiple promotions, and that's probably in the future of Kimberly. And again, somebody not that I didn't discover, but Madison Eagles certainly did, out of New Zealand, Evie. She's the PWWA interim champion right now, having great matches with Kelly Skater down in Australia, and she's been trying to get into Shimmer for about a year and a half now, and she will make her Shimmer debut at Shimmer 53 at WrestleCon. So she's finally going to branch out to another part of the world, and we look forward to featuring Evie in Shimmer.
As far as Kimberly, on my part, I only saw her once live, which was the last WSU show, and I really liked her presence. I really liked her wrestling ability, and I'm really looking forward to more. I haven't seen a lot of her on DVD also, so I'm less I can't say more about her, but from what I heard from everybody and from what I witnessed live once, she did show a lot of capacity, and I really think she, from only that match I saw, I knew she can be someone big in women's wrestling. On my part, if I would say a discovery this year, I think Zandra Bell, I know it's sometimes difference to make a difference between breakout and discovery, but Zandra, I knew her, she was on her show before, but I think the crowd really discovered how she can be a good wrestler this year with the matches she had in Montreal. She had an amazing performance in her 3-versus-3 match versus the Militia in July. She had a really, really good 3-way with Mizunami and Van Dutch, and she had a good 3-versus-3 also on Femme Fatale 10. So I think as far as discovery, Zandra Bell was a good discovery for me on the roster, and I think she could have a really good 2013 also.
And another person worth pointing out, just as someone that a lot of fans and promoters have discovered during 2012, even though she's been wrestling for several years now, because she just moved to a different part of the country and it's helping her get booked other places, who is completely different from everybody else on these shows, is Thunder Kitty. And if you've never seen her, YouTube her. 1950s style gear and wrestling, and she was on Sparkle this year, and I think there's a lot of creative potential to that character.
Well, Dave, you gave us a little bit of a tidbit there about what to expect on Shimmer 53, but 2013 is almost upon us, so can you guys maybe give us a little bit of an idea about what's going to be going on with your promotions, like upcoming matches, anything like that?
Drew, I think you got the next one coming up out of the three of us, so go ahead.
Okay. Our next live event is going to be a doubleheader with CGW in the Philadelphia area, and when I took over the social media for WSU, that was one of the spots that was the most requested. When I pitched the question, where would fans like to see WSU next? And so, we're lucky the opportunity came about to be able to work so closely together with an organization that is very prominent in that area. We're lucky that it came together so quickly. And so, as a result, the first match that we've already announced, we've seen what Mercedes and Lufisto can do in a cage, but now we're going to let them fight around the entire arena. We're not going to limit the space that they're going to be able to fight in. So it's going to be a Falls Count Anywhere. And that's the first match that we've announced for an ultra-violent affair. We're going to have a lot more announcements that are going to be coming starting next week, but I think that we're going to let Jessica Havoc pick our next challenger for the WSU world title, so it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from there, because I think a lot of the fans would like to see Lexis challenge, since she was not the one that took the fall in the three-way at full steam ahead. I hope that we can set up another match between Leva Bates and Calamity. I'm not sure if that's something that Calamity would sign on for, considering that she might not necessarily have anything else to prove. But I thought that they had, I thought that they really sold the show, and that's hard to do in the first match. I've been talking back and forth with BJ Hyde. There's a good possibility that we will see a WSU versus CZW match on the card. And then, now going back to Kimberly, now that her knee is finally healed up, I think that the Nasty Tricks, her and Annie she'll deserve another shot at the Midwest Militia. Not sure if it's going to be for the tag titles, but those are the details that will get hashed out in the coming weeks. And then before that, already announced, we're going to be doing a WSU showcase match at CZW on their show on January 12th, which is going to be the same spot at the Flyer Skate Zone in Voorhees, New Jersey. And then we also have a match at National Pro Wrestling Day, which is going to be free to attend in the Philadelphia area, actually a week before our next live event. That's going to be on February 2nd. National Wrestling Day, Groundhog Day, that's going to be the same day, and I believe that is going to be an iPay-per-view that is going to be presented on Smart Mark Video, SMVOD. So certainly get a lot of interesting things coming up. Again, I want WC to try and work with as many promotions as possible, and I'm very, very much so looking forward to running with CZW, because I think that that's the type of thing that really differentiates WSU from some of the other women's organizations. And going back to some of the things that we commented on, when a lot of us are using some of the same wrestlers, it's, I think, how the promotion is presented. And even though we said, we book to our individual live crowds, Dave books to meet the needs of the Chicago crowd, Stefan books to meet the needs of the Montreal crowd, I think that there's a number of fans that are so supportive of women's wrestling that they'll follow everything. And so it's important that when they pick up the DVD or however they come across the footage, that there's something that's unique about each one. So that's what we're going to try and continue to do in 2013.
I think I'm next. Our show March 30th, the Easter weekend. We'll have a special show with triple main events, a little bit like we did last year with the triple main events in March. First match we'll have, it will be for Femme Fatale Championship, and it will be a rematch from last March, and then a rematch also from the March before. So it's a match that we see only in March. It's Mercedes Martinez that will face Calamity for the NCW Femme Fatale title. So I think it will be a fun match to witness, because Mercedes has been changing her character during the last year. I saw it and I received a punch from her. Yeah, exactly. So, it will be a really good and entertaining match versus Calamity. We'll have also something that started Lash on Femme Fatale 10, and that both wrestlers requested that match, so we'll do it. We'll have Saraya Knight back in Montreal against Sophisto. So this is a one-on-one first-time match. So we'll have that match on March 30th, and both of them are really looking forward to hit each other. And another match I want to confirm is a match that I think a lot of independent women's wrestling fans wanted to see, and it will be cheerleader Melissa taking one-on-one on Jessica Havoc. So that will be her last match of her triple main event on March 30th. Also on that show, we'll have Allison Danger back in Montreal. She was last back in March on Femme Fatale 5 2 years ago, so she'll be back on that show. We'll have them, like I said earlier, the Midwest Militia will be there. Also, the old Militia, Sassy, Steffi, and LCK, and more surprise in the upcoming weeks. So that's where we're heading for March 30th, or Femme Fatale 11. So triple main event. And tickets will go on sale on January 5th. We'll give more information about it on our website and on Twitter and on our Facebook also. But tickets will be on sale on January 5th.
Cool. I guess I'm left. But before I get into Shimmer, just because there weren't 4 wise men, and and Sal is not on the podcast right now. And they're our sister promotion. Definitely don't forget about Shine in 2013. I think their next show is January 12th, maybe something like that. I don't know. It'll be on ShineWrestling.com. 11th.
Probably the 11th.
Okay. It'll be on ShineWrestling.com. And of course, all of those shows all year are internet pay-per-views at WWNlive.com. Jazz is a regular on the Shine shows. A lot of the local Florida wrestlers, like Kimberly, not Kimberly, but Kimberly. It's going to get very difficult to keep them separate during the coming year. But, Sue Young, Santana, she's using Tracy Taylor down there. Lexi Fife and Sal together, and along with Daphne, are kind of the creative team behind those shows. And they're recognizing the Shimmer champion as well. From what Sal told me, I don't think they're necessarily going to be going on the plan of doing monthly in 2013, but it's still going to be much more frequent than pretty much the rest of us are doing. There's not going to be 12 pay-per-views next year from Shine, but probably something around 8 or so, maybe every 6 to 8 weeks doing a show. So for those that want to see regular pay-per-view women's wrestling, definitely support Shine. But as far as Shimmer goes, we're going to be filming 5 Shimmer shows, or DVD releases, episodes, whatever you want to call them, in a span of 2 weeks during the early half of April. Our next show is April 6th. Bell time is noon at the Meadowlands Convention Center in Secaucus, New Jersey, part of WrestleCon. It's us at noon, and then Chikara at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, something like that. And then Dragon Gate USA after Chikara, all on the same day, all in the same place. That will likely be an iPay-per-view at WWNlive.com, but that's not 100% yet. Already announced for that show, for the Shimmer Championship inside a steel cage. It's a feud that's been going on for years after the initial injury overseas. Sweet Saraya defending the Shimmer Championship against cheerleader Melissa inside the cage. Also on that show, we have already announced Athena taking on Ayako Hamada, which should be a fantastic, very athletic, high-flying match. They wrestled each other at Shimmer 52, which saw Athena injure her knee during the closing moments of the match, and Hamada focused on that injury and got the win. And after the match, Athena asked for a rematch when she's 100% and challenged her for WrestleCon, and Hamada accepted. So there will be the rematch between those two, the steel cage. And as I mentioned earlier, the return of Amazing Kong to Shimmer will be a part of that event, which I hope will get a lot of the wrestling fans who are in the area for Mania that weekend to give us a shot. Check out the women's wrestling show that weekend as part of WrestleCon. And, of course, the Shimmer debut of Evie, as I mentioned earlier. And if all things go well and, her knee holds up well at her return, I guess later this month, in Australia, Madison Eagles is scheduled to return to Shimmer action on Shimmer 53 as well. Tickets for that are available at WrestleCon.com. We're into the third row in terms of ringside tickets. I know it's the button on the website still says second row, but it's the same price for second and third row. We are into the third row, and general admission are also on sale. We've already sold 300 tickets for that show, so it's already going to be the biggest live attendance for a Shimmer event ever, and we've still got 4 months to go. So that event, and then the following weekend, we're back in Berwyn at the Eagles Club to film 54 through 57 of the Shimmer series, and tickets for those shows will go on sale during the first week of January. We'll make an announcement at ShimmerWrestling.com as far as exactly when, but yeah, that's what we got coming up.
So, no frankincense, no myrrh, but you all brought gold in the podcast.
Oh my god!
Do you like
been waiting 2 hours to bust out that line, huh?
Oh man, that just came to me. But we gotta wrap this thing up, guys.
Probably came up with that line and then wanted to do the podcast after that.
I'm not responsible for that in any way. I swear.
That's
Myrrh. Now you got myrrh too.
That's my best. My best podcast moment ever. Anyway, so guys, thank you for giving us your time. And I think actually, all things considered, this has worked out pretty well. So, yeah, a success.
You'll notice the echo went away as soon as I mentioned Melanie Cruz, so she's the key to success.
Remember that for 2013. There you go. Thanks again. Everybody listening to this, I swear to God, we don't know what we're doing for episode 50 yet, but it's coming up next month. Keep an eye on the
Kana versus Hamada. That's what you're doing.
Now we've got roundtables. We could do a roundtable with Hamada and Kana.
I want a different shaped table next time.
Square table.
I want a rhombus.
A rhombus. Very nice. We don't know what we're doing for episode 50. Be back for it next month. Keep an eye on the website for all sorts of stuff coming up to the end of the year and going into 2013. We've got a few ideas, keep things fresh. Thank you for your support over the year. It's been a fantastic year of growth for us, and hopefully 2013 will continue the same trajectory. Thanks very much, everybody.
Okay. In Chicago, we can build a snowman. Harlem sewer rats, it's bad news brown. You'll say running monthly, I'll say no, man. But you can do the job when you're in town. Ashley